excited.
Okay, ready?
I'm ready.
Cool. Hi, Vicky.
Hi, Simon.
Hi, how you doing? And welcome
I'm good.
everyone to She Changed History.
Thank you.
I'm in my Christmas jumper for those watching clips on YouTube
hmm
or our Insta. I'm in full festive swing. You feeling Christmassy?
Yeah, my reef's up and it looks much better than I thought, so that's nice. I tried to do some
Okay.
Christmas shopping today, but I just couldn't. I couldn't get in the vibe, so I abandoned ship and came home. So I think we're getting there, and then we've got this Christmas meal tonight, so hopefully that'll help with Christmas. Quite a
Of
Christmas
course.
meal.
Quiet Christmas meal. Yeah, looking
Yeah,
forward to
I'm
it.
very excited. But controversially, there wasn't a Christmas menu that was shared. It was only pub food.
Yeah, well, I'm actually quite happy about that.
Are
I generally
you?
don't, yeah, I'm not keen on restaurants that do a Christmas menu because it's always like a
Oh,
worse version of their normal menu.
oh,
Yes.
that's, I feel like that's so unfounded. What's going on there?
Just in my, well,
Did
it's
you
just
just
like,
have a bad time once?
yeah, I've had one bad experience and therefore dismissed Christmas menus forevermore.
Forever and ever and
Yeah.
ever.
Well, we were going to book that Italian in Gloucester for my birthday meal this Friday,
Yeah.
but they were, because it's December, they were forcing us to have the Christmas menu, which
Okay.
doesn't have on it the best dishes on their menu, and it's more
Hmm.
expensive, and you've got to pay in advance.
So what are we doing?
Going to Monmouth.
Okay.
So,
Is that what I've, that's Italian as well in Monmouth?
it is, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I was like, I've ordered Italian. I was panicking then. I was like, what's happening? I've definitely ordered
Yeah.
Italian. Oh my gosh. And talking of
Okay.
celebrations, little fun fact before we start is that we're recording on the 11th of December. We don't know when this will air. Um, but yesterday on the 10th of December was Ada Lovelace's birthday.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, so I shared our Ada episode because obviously you did a
Mhm.
great episode on Ada Lovelace. I can't remember what number
Excellent.
she is. Number two, she was right out the gate, Ada Lovelace. So, episode two, the rebellious romantic who birthed the digital age.
And you can celebrate Ada by listening to the episode, rating and reviewing.
Please, all the things to keep us relevant.
Mm.
What have you got for us today, Simon?
Well, today we've got an absolute banger of science
Love
of
it.
an Austrian physicist. So today we shine a spotlight on Lise Meitner, a brilliant physicist whose contributions to nuclear science were nothing short of revolutionary. Meitner's journey is one of intellectual curiosity, unwavering perseverance, and unfortunately, it's a stark reminder of the challenges faced by women in science, particularly during the tumultuous first half of the 20th century. Join us as we explore the life of this remarkable woman, from her early years in Vienna to her dramatic escape from Nazi Germany, her groundbreaking scientific achievements, and the controversial Nobel Prize snub that marred her well-deserved recognition.
Ooh, Nobel Prize snub. That sounds
Yeah.
very much the purpose of this podcast.
We got, yeah. Ah.
Ah, right up my
You'll need
street.
to be like informed and furious in equal measure.
Yes, they're the
Yeah,
feelings I want to feel when we do this.
yeah.
So yeah,
And
very
also we've got
excited.
a Escape from the Nazis as well, so I feel like it's got all the hallmarks
She
of
changed
a
history
classic.
again.
Yeah,
Nice. Very
yeah.
cool. All right.
And so our sources today are an obituary from New Scientist, a Washington Post article, The Woman Behind the Bomb, and a fantastic book, Lise Meitner, A Life in Physics, written by Ruth Lewin Sime.
Okay, let's go.
So Lise Meitner was born in 1878 in Vienna
Okay.
to a Jewish family, quite well off, educated. Her father was one of the first Jewish lawyers admitted to practice in Austria.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, they're quite forward.
they're forward
Like,
thinking, yeah.
yeah, as well.
Yeah, and she was brought up with this sort of forward-thinking, free-thinking mindset. Like at the time, education for women in Austria wasn't prioritized. They were, at most, they could be a teacher.
Okay.
Her father wasn't on board with that and encouraged them to be inquisitive and follow education and follow their interests. And so at the age of 8, she started doing her own little science experiments.
Like
And she was looking
Ada,
at
just like we were talking about, like
just
Ada
like
Lovelace
Ada.
and the
Yeah,
bird. Yes.
yeah. And she was looking at the colours on sort of films and oil slicks,
Okay.
and kept a little diary of her scientific experiments under her pillow.
Under her
Was
pillow.
under
Oh
her
my
pillow. That's all very
gosh.
cute.
Very
Yeah,
romanticized. Yes.
isn't it? Right. At the time, women couldn't go into higher education, so they weren't
Okay.
allowed to progress past a certain point, and you needed
Mm.
your higher education diploma to then get into university, something called matura. She was keen, and her family were wealthy, so much like Ada again, she was able to have private tuition.
Nice.
And sat a sort of independent external matura exam. She, along with 13 other girls, sat it. Only four of them passed. So she passed and got into the University of Vienna.
Okay.
And, well, one of the lecturers there was Ludwig Boltzmann. She loved his lectures.
Oh,
And so she entered university in 1901. In 1906, she got her doctorate. She was only the second woman to earn a doctoral degree in physics in the University of Vienna,
nice.
3 years after the first.
Did
Her
she talk
thesis,
about her time at Vienna at all? Like, was she ostracized or?
uh, not particularly, although
Okay.
coming up, there is some. When she gets to Germany, she's heading off to Germany
Oh,
soon. Yeah.
okay, fine.
Yeah. So her dissertation was on thermal conduction in inhomogeneous bodies. Haven't read it. Sure, it's great, but
What?
it got
You didn't
her.
read it as
I
research for the
didn't. I
podcast,
didn't read it.
Simon.
I'm afraid.
Simon,
I know.
the disservice you're doing our listeners.
So along the way, she was asked. She sort of got a bit of a reputation that she was good at doing experiments. She was happy to
Okay.
learn and investigate independently. So a fellow called Paul Ehrenfest asked her to investigate an article that Lord Rayleigh had written
This
on
is like a
optics.
physic name drop.
It
Like,
really is. It's,
you sound like you've gone to a Hollywood party and you're just dropping all
yeah.
these
Oh yeah,
names.
yeah. I was just speaking to Niels Bohr the other day. Yeah. He's a great guy, great guy. Yeah, so friendly. Paula in real life as well. So Lord Rayleigh had done an experiment which had produced results that he wasn't able to explain. She had a look at it and was able to explain the results, and then made further predictions on it based on the explanation that she given, which she then verified through her own experiments.
Come on, Lise, this is
So,
cool.
right, she's like 28 at the time, has only recently got her doctorate, and already she's meeting these bigwigs of
Mhm.
science,
And contributing as well and
and
making
contributing.
inroads. Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit down the line, she was introduced to the concept of radioactivity, still quite a
Yeah.
new concept at this time. Remember, this is around the time of Marie Curie. So, radioactivity, this newish phenomenon, she was introduced to it, and she started doing her own experiments.
She likes an
Uh,
experiment. We know that. She's good
loves an
at them.
experiment.
Yeah.
Submitted her findings to a scientific journal, and her experiment was one of the experiments that led, I'm sorry, it's another name drop, that led Ernest Rutherford to predict the nuclear atom. So,
Wow.
like,
He's a big name to drop
he's a
as
big name,
well.
right?
He's huge.
Even Vicky's heard of him. She brings out useful results that other people enjoy and use. She left the University of Vienna to go to the Friedrich Wilhelm University in Berlin. Berlin
Mhm.
at this time was really the center of physics research. And it's at this institute that physicist Max Planck taught. Max Planck, another massive name.
Is
Um,
this like a special time for physics?
this is an
All these
incredible
names.
time for physics.
Yeah,
Absolutely incredible. And it's all around this time. So Einstein's getting his Nobel
of
Prize around
course.
this time. There's so much research going into electromagnetism. Radioactivity is just coming along. We're starting to get
Mm.
an understanding of the nuclear model, the atomic model. Quantum physics as a concept is starting to
Like being
sort of be
born.
recognized and be researched. So, yeah, Max Planck taught here at the Friedrich Wilhelm University in Berlin. Um, Planck invited her to his home, for not for
Ominous.
nefarious reasons, but just
Oh dear.
yeah. She already had a bit of a reputation
Oh,
because of these experiments that she'd done back in Vienna, because of the work that she'd done that then led to Rutherford's future work. Now,
I think that means something different today than it did back then.
yeah, I should say up front, she never married, never had children. So she wasn't getting that sort of
Oh,
name for herself. Um,
interesting. Okay. So
Now,
she's
Max Planck,
dedicated to the cause. Yeah.
she really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Max Planck, I find it weird. He had twin daughters,
Okay.
but didn't agree with women being admitted to university.
It's so internalized, isn't it? I don't understand how people can separate that type of love. Like,
Yeah.
to me, it's either all-encompassing, unconditional,
Hmm.
of course, and blind faith in a person that, yes, you can do that.
Mm.
I don't understand when you can tear it apart. Like, I love you, but
I love you, but obviously you're never going to amount to anything and you don't
yeah,
deserve to achieve all of these things and you're not going to be capable purely because you're a woman. I wish I'd had sons. Like he's can't be saying that to his daughters, but I mean he is saying that
he
by
is
these
through his
views that he
actions.
holds.
Yeah, through his actions.
So this was
Mm.
quite an unexpected, in a sort of unexpected twist by Planck. He invited Lisa to attend his lectures.
So she's
Um,
fine. She's
so
okay,
she's okay. And at this time, actually, women weren't really allowed to attend lectures at the
despite her
university.
being a doctor.
Despite her having a doctorate in
For
physics.
heaven's
Yeah,
sake. Ah,
she wasn't allowed. But
okay.
she made friends with Planck, went along to his lectures as an auditor, apparently. So not as a student, but as an auditor.
Oh, so she was
Um,
undercover.
uh, she loved his lectures, raved about them, wanted to do her own research, and so approached Heinrich Rubens, who was in charge of the Experimental Physics Institute at the Friedrich Wilhelm University. And he said that she could work in his lab. Crucially, he also said that there was someone in the Chemistry Institute, Otto Hahn, who was looking to collaborate with a physicist. And he's collaborated with female physicists before during his time in Montreal. He'd studied radioactive substances. So he needs a partner in this.
Needs a buddy.
Yeah. So here we go again with, oh yeah, she's an incredible woman
Yep.
and we can have her here, but she can't do all of this other stuff. So she actually wasn't allowed into the main university grounds where she was supposed to be collaborating with Otto Hahn, but she wasn't allowed in the labs because women weren't allowed in the labs. I don't know, maybe thought their hair would set on fire or
Yeah,
something,
I
or
immediately thought she would
you know,
burst into flames. Yeah.
yeah, that's it. Yeah. So the head of chemistry there set up a former woodworking shop for Otto and Lisa to use, which had the
Okay.
advantage that it had a separate entrance that you
Okay.
could get to without having to go through the university. So she could work in this woodworking shop, but they couldn't really do experiments there.
Yeah,
The
of course.
toilets,
It's a
because
woodworking shop.
it's a
What's she
woodworking
gonna do
shop, you
there?
can't do nuclear experiments there.
Pick a
Yeah.
Bunsen burner in the corner. Off you go.
The toilets are in the university. She wasn't allowed
Yeah.
in the university, so if she wanted to go to the loo, she had to go to a restaurant down the street.
Oh, bless her.
Just this sort of thing. Eventually, they did install toilets, but then there was
Wow.
uproar from a lot of the chemistry department. So the chemistry department there were really, on the whole, not happy about a woman being admitted to do research.
I wonder how she
Um,
felt
I
because
don't
she's
know.
proved herself so many times over by this point.
Yeah,
Like, I know she's still relatively early on in her career by the sounds of it, but like, she's got a doctorate, she's done those exams, she's
yeah.
had a really strong success with the experiment where she could conclude something that a man couldn't.
Hmm.
And I wonder how,
It
yeah,
must be
she must have been,
heartbreaking every time she really thought about it.
yeah. And the passion for what she was doing must be higher than that, though.
I just find it
Mm.
utterly heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is. It's a
Um,
really hard listen, isn't it?
yeah, and this is in 1913, so 7 years after she's got her
Yeah.
doctorate.
Yeah.
So she's
She's
yeah,
seasoned.
she's
Yeah.
experienced and respected amongst some people.
Hmm.
It's just like that, the old guard of the, I imagine, the sort of smoky rooms of 19th century scientists who have never had to
Yeah.
really speak to a woman in their time apart from checking that the children are okay.
It's elitism,
Um,
isn't it?
at this stage, both Meitner and Hahn are unpaid, which is not untypical for the time, and they live off allowances from their fathers. Hahn sort of becomes a professor in early 1907. Meitner doesn't. They're working on the same things. But Hahn's work, their work together on atomic processes, nuclear processes, radiation, and they're detecting tiny, tiny amounts of
Hmm.
particular isotopes of particular elements that they're trying to detect through radioactivity. And this is really sort of cutting edge stuff. And
Hmm.
so they're dismissed by a lot of the other chemists in the department. So not only is like she dismissed for being a woman, but she's dismissed because of the kind of work that she's doing. But the
Yep.
physics department was
Yay.
much friendlier, much more welcoming. And she
Great.
became really good friends with a lot of the physicists there, including Max Planck and some others that I hadn't heard of before. I'm sure they were all great.
No,
No
you've
name
run out
dropping
of
on that
names
one.
to drop, to
I
be
think I have
fair.
actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and Einstein comes up later. Yeah.
What? God.
So during these first few years that Meitner and Hahn were working together, they co-authored 9 papers, but they were interested in slightly different aspects of the same process, as you might expect from a chemist and a physicist.
Yeah.
Hahn was concerned with discovering new elements and like, oh, something's happened. So you have these decay chains where it goes
Hmm.
from this element to this element, which is also radioactive, and that decays into this element, and you're sort of stepping down, and these elements are gradually losing mass, turning into other elements. Hahn's main focus was in discovering these new elements and filling in. At the time, the periodic table still has gaps in it. So you look at a periodic table now and the numbers go up nicely and they're all brilliantly grouped together, and we don't have any gaps in between the
Yeah,
elements that we know about. We may discover heavier elements in the future, but
I see.
at this point there were still gaps in there, and he wanted to fill those gaps in.
Understood.
And
It was
the mo
tidy.
he's tidy, yeah. Whereas Lisa was more interested in understanding the radiation that they gave off and how this radiation worked. In 1912, both of them move to the new Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Chemistry in Berlin.
Oh my God. The
So,
times.
yeah,
The
so
times that are ahead.
1912, Kaiser Wilhelm. Oh God. Um, uh,
Okay, let's go. Let's learn.
it's an institute for chemistry. Hahn accepts an offer. He becomes a junior assistant in charge of a
Okay.
section.
Hmm.
He gets the title of professor. He gets
Ooh,
a salary
what?
equivalent to about 30,000 euros. The Kaiser Wilhelm Institute is a private institution. It doesn't have a policy excluding women,
Ah,
but
loopholes.
it won't pay her.
Ugh.
So she works as a guest, still supported by her father, uh, supported by her father until he dies.
Ooh.
So she's not got the support,
Mm.
and she's not getting paid for the work that she's doing
Ugh.
on equal footing with her same age scientific
Yeah,
partner.
counterpart.
Um, so worried that she'd have to basically go back home. Max Planck, name drop, appoints her as his assistant, where
Ah,
she goes through marking papers, basically,
okay.
of his students. So assistant is the absolute lowest rung on the ladder, but she's got something, she's got some salary to get by on. She can continue doing her research. And she's actually in the whole of Prussia. She is the first female scientific assistant.
Okay. I mean,
And
it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because it's great. That's amazing and a very cool thing for him to do. But Otto wasn't having to find the time to mark
no,
papers.
I know, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm finding it really difficult with Lisa to sort of get my head around how respected she seems to be, and yet they treat her like shit.
Juxtaposition,
Because,
isn't it?
yeah, because like she's presented to Kaiser Wilhelm at the opening of this institute. So he comes along to
Is she?
open the institute, and they proudly push her in front of him to meet the Kaiser.
Do you think
Yet
that's
she's only paid as
tokenism?
an assistant. Well, maybe, yeah. I'm not sure.
It
I'm not
is.
sure it is tokenism because all of these, like for Planck to appoint her, to be so worried about losing her that he gives her any job he can just to keep her there. So I think she really is well respected, and they are equally hamstrung by the system.
Hmm.
There is gradually change. So a year after this, she becomes an associate. Title wise, she's on the same level as Han now, but her salary is still far less. And they actually renamed the laboratory. So it was originally the Han Laboratory. It's now the Han Meitner Laboratory. So they are
I know what
gradually
you mean.
recognizing,
It's funny. It's a funny one to
yeah,
navigate.
but they still pay us loads less. Anyway, sort of money wise, it all comes good because
Okay.
one of the isotopes they discovered earlier on, a thorium isotope, it turns out it's very useful for medical purposes. And so they get royalties from the production of that.
Oh, come on,
And
strong.
I know 1914, they get about 400,000 euros, the equivalent just in that one year from the royalties of production of this isotope that
Wow.
they discovered. I'm worried I might push you over the edge with this. In a show of great inequality, Hahn gives Meitner 10% of the royalties. Yeah, he keeps 90%, gives her
He gives
10%.
90%, Simon. What? Is that because he was like focused on the tidying? He was like, well, I'm discovering, and she was focused on the byproducts, do you think?
Maybe,
Ah,
but it was,
poor woman.
I know.
Oh, wow. So she got, what's 10% of that? So she got like
She got 40,000,
40,000.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's something. It's a couple of
She
years'
can eat.
salary. Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
grateful.
Again, she keeps getting offered these different academic positions around the place because she's so well respected. That's just bonkers. Planck, once again, doesn't want her to leave.
This
So they
plank
double
guy
her
flying the
salary.
flag.
They eventually move to new accommodation because it turns out doing radioactive experiments in a wood shop is not a good idea. We're in World War One now, 1914. She
Things are
gets called
heating up.
up. Yeah, things are really heating up. She gets called up to active duty, trains as an X-ray nurse.
Does she? That's
Yeah,
fascinating.
joins the
Oh,
Austrian army, and yeah, as a nurse for a year or so before she's discharged in 1916. After she's discharged in 1917, so World War One is still going on. She returns to the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute, and she is appointed as the head of her own section. She then gets her own physics
brilliant.
section. And the what was the Hahn Meitner laboratory is now two separate laboratories, the Hahn laboratory and the Meitner laboratory.
Mm.
Then together they discover a new element.
Ooh,
So they filled in one of the gaps. They name it protactinium,
protactinium.
yeah, which is a name that Lisa suggested. She eventually becomes a professor in 1926, the first female university physics professor in Germany,
Nice.
and is a magnet for scientists from around the world. Scientists from around the world want to come and study with her because she's doing this groundbreaking research and she's really got a name for herself at this point. But we're heading into the 30s.
Mm.
So it's 1933 that Hitler was sworn in as Chancellor of Germany. And they institute a law. The law is called the Law for the Restoration of the Professional Civil Service, which removes all Jews from the civil service. And this includes academia. And although she is not a practicing Jew at this point, she is still Jewish
Yeah.
and manages to hang on for a couple of years, but is eventually dismissed. So these also they were trying to get her out, sort of by name. Her and Hahn were still in charge, but their assistants were both members of the Nazi Party and were both being given more and more control, more and more influence over the running of this institute.
Mm.
Fast forward to 1938,
Okay.
then she's got a real problem. It's called Anschluss,
Another
which
one.
is, yeah,
Another problem.
another problem. Yeah, something called Anschluss. So this is where Germany annexed Austria on the 12th of March 1938. And so at this point, she loses her Austrian citizenship.
Yeah.
So she's no longer officially an Austrian citizen. She's a Jew in Germany.
It's so
What do you
scary.
do? It's
Yeah.
terrifying. Yeah.
Being stripped of your
Um,
citizenship. Can you imagine
oh, it's
the
awful, isn't it? I mean, what do you do from there? You've
what
got,
I know, that's just what I was thinking. Like, where do you go? Where do you turn? You know,
yeah,
what
you're not
next?
eligible for anything anywhere.
Anywhere. And completely somebody else decided that on you. They chose your
Yeah.
fate. Yeah. My heart goes out to her. It really does. Not in a pitying way. I don't want to feel like we're pitying her, but she did not have it easy.
She really didn't. No, I mean,
Mm.
in a sense, that there are a lot of people in World War II, obviously, who were far worse off
Mm.
than her. And you just look at a sort of Irina Sendler's episode and what
Yeah,
she was
fair.
dealing with the ghettos in Poland. And in a sense, Lisa was quite lucky because she knew at the time in their field these quite powerful people. So people like Niels Bohr,
Yeah.
he was rich enough to have a holiday home. These were long established professors. They were celebrities of the scientific world. They had higher level contacts. And fortunately, they were working to get her out of the country. So Niels Bohr offered her this lecturing job, but Denmark wouldn't recognize her Austrian passport as valid. So it wouldn't give her a visa to travel there. She couldn't leave for there. She couldn't leave for Switzerland. On 4th of July of that year, 1938, it was confirmed that academics wouldn't be granted permission to travel abroad. So initially, other countries weren't letting her in. Now, Germany wasn't letting her leave. And again, this story for me is just full of these strange paradoxes and juxtapositions where, on the one hand, Nazi Germany wants to eradicate the Jews. On the other hand, they want their scientific knowledge.
Knowledge is power, isn't it? I guess that's a theme we're coming to.
Mhm. Four people together: Niels Bohr, Peter Debye, another fellow called Costa, and another fellow called Fokker, wanted Meitner to be able to come to the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Yeah, Costa spoke to one of the heads of the border guards,
Mm-hmm.
and he had a friend who was a local politician from the border area through which they thought she might be able to gain entry.
Oh.
Um, And so he petitioned, this politician spoke directly to the guards on the border to basically, when
Mm-hmm.
she comes past looking for entry, whistle and look the other way. Don't ask any questions
Oh.
about her. And so
Mm.
there was a plan to basically smuggle her out the country. And the plan involved her turning up to work at a normal time, doing her work, leaving at about 8 o'clock. She only packed summer clothes. She only had the equivalent of about £40 on her, but they gave her a diamond engagement ring so that if she did get into trouble, she could try bribing or sort of pawning it for
Oh,
more money or
wow.
something. And also, it would make her look like she was married.
Yes.
She spent the night at Han's house and then went to a railway station and met this person called Costa. They made a public show of pretending to have met by chance and then travelled together to a railway station on the border. And then from that railway station, they crossed the border without any incident. This got her into the Netherlands.
This is so smart, by the way. It's just, and I love the detail. How many people that took. She must have lots of interpersonal
Mm.
skills to get all these people on board. She must have been able to sell herself.
And it's an international operation, deception
That's what
involving
I was
politicians and
thinking.
border guards.
You listed so many people in that one moment,
Yeah.
and they all would have had to have spoken to her at some point or had recognition of who she was at some point.
And
Very
this
impressed.
fella Costa discovered an element called hafnium,
Hmm.
and another physicist, Pauli, famous for the Pauli exclusion principle, wrote a telegram to Costa and informed him he was now as famous for the abduction of Lise Meitner as he was for the discovery of hafnium.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
A little later, Sweden
Hmm.
had actually granted her permission officially to enter Sweden on her Austrian passport. So she wasn't
Amazing.
spending much time in the Netherlands. That was just to get her out of Germany. And then she moved on to Sweden. Meanwhile, another deception. Hahn had told everyone at the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute because they were asking, "Oh, where's Lisa gone?" He said that she'd gone home to Vienna to visit her relatives. So while this was going on, while she was doing all of this traveling, he was sort of doing the deception back there.
Mm.
So
He's
he
kind
wouldn't
of
ask too
redeemed
many questions.
himself, hasn't he, Han? He's had a bit of
He's a
redemption.
She's not allowed any of her belongings. The Germans refused to send any of her belongings out of the country, so she has just got two suitcases of summer clothes and $40 and a diamond ring, and she's
God.
starting afresh then in
Oh,
Sweden. So the big thing.
we haven't done the big thing. Oh,
We haven't done the big we
okay.
haven't done the big thing. So the big thing, Hahn is still back in Germany,
Hmm.
and he's conducting some experiments trying to find new elements. And he's taking some uranium, famously friendly uranium, and bombarding it with neutrons and
Is
seeing
he
what happens.
okay? Is he having a rough
It's,
time? What's going on
it's
with
having...
Han?
Has anyone spoken to Hahn lately? Yeah. So the way that Hahn's been working on investigating these nuclear processes is looking at the decay of radioactive elements and seeing that they start off heavy, they decay. By decaying, they lose some of their mass, and something lighter comes out. And that lighter thing is radioactive. It loses some mass, it becomes the next lighter element or isotope, and down it goes. But you eventually get to a point where it's no longer radioactive. So it doesn't decay past a certain point.
Yeah,
It's got nothing more to lose. It's stable.
it's stable.
Um,
Got it.
so he is doing some experiments where he's bombarding these uranium nuclei with neutrons and seeing what happens. And he's thinking, oh, maybe I can, because he's on the search for element 93. And he's thinking you might find
That
it
sounds
by,
like a children's book, The Search for
doesn't it?
Element
Yeah.
93.
It's like Catch 22, the sequel.
Yeah.
Um, uh, but he sees something odd in that he bombards this uranium with a neutron, and then he does some chemistry tests on the resulting atoms to find out what it is, and he's left with barium. Now, barium has got like 40% of the mass of uranium. So he's thinking this isn't fitting with the model of gradually stepping down in mass that we've seen before. Something else particularly strange is happening, and they don't know the means of radioactive decay by which this can happen. It's going way further than it should, and it's happening way more quickly than it should. Normally, you've got to wait for the half-life of each one that you get to. So the half-life, it could be seconds, it could be days, and you've just got to wait for it to decay and get lighter, and then you test it and see what you're left with. But this is like 60% lighter. He's baffled. So he wrote to Lisa with these results and was like, I don't know what the hell's happening here.
Well,
And
that's
she's
nice that
quoted
he
as saying,
reached out. That's really
yeah,
cool.
so they're still
That's,
in touch across all of this
yeah.
time. Um, she writes back to him to say, at the moment, the assumption of such a thoroughgoing breakup seems very difficult to me. But in nuclear physics, we have experienced so many surprises that one cannot unconditionally say it is impossible. So Hahn is
Nice.
there thinking, I must have made a mistake. My experiment's gone wrong. This result can't be right. Meitner's like, yeah,
Yeah,
there
she's
could be
open.
something. She's
She's
open to
open
it.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing that she isn't open to and that she completely dismisses is that Otto Hahn has messed up. She doesn't accept, she's so confident in the quality of his work that she doesn't think he's made an error
Wow.
in the discovery of barium.
Oh, come
Um,
on. This is adorable. Yes, yes, yes. She's like, of course
so,
it's not you. We all need that person at work. Of
yeah,
course
right.
it's not you.
So, along with uh, a family member, I think nephew of hers, who is who also happens to be a physicist.
As a theme, family business.
The family business, yeah. They sit down and have a think of how it could be possible. Um, because basically, in order for if Hahn hasn't messed up,
Yeah.
then what he's done is split the atom.
Bloody hell.
And so they consider how this could be possible and how he's done it and how in the past they've never had sufficient energy to chip away more than a tiny bit. If you imagine a massive boulder, they've just been there with a little chisel on the outside and they've taken
Oh,
off a
really?
proton
That
or an
little.
electron, just a tiny,
Oh.
tiny bit. And it's all these lots of little chips. But what he's done is thrown a ping pong ball at a boulder and the thing has cracked in half.
Chijum. Yep.
Yeah. So they come up with this model that they call the liquid drop model of the
Okay.
nucleus. Her family member, Frisch, so Meitner and Frisch discuss this while sat down on a tree trunk, having been
Yeah.
on a walk in the snow.
Yep.
Um,
This is where the
Walking
best
through the woods
thinking
in the snow.
happens. Yeah.
Right.
When you said earlier,
Um,
like they sat down to have a think, I was like, I could totally picture that. Like I could totally picture them. Well, we just need to think about this. Plonk.
yeah. A nice little detail is that when they were in the snow, Frisch had his skis on. Lisa was insistent that she would be just as fast as him without, and
Nice.
she was. So she was on foot.
God, I love her. I love her. I love her.
So they did some calculations just to see if it was plausible that this could possibly have happened. And they decided it was possible, but they didn't know where the energy was coming from to drive them away. So this energy, there must have been energy, and this energy would have just appeared. And how can you create energy? Well, you can't create energy, you can transform it. And the transformation of that is Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared, where energy is the mass times the speed of light squared. And they basically went through doing some more calculations and found that theoretically in this they would lose enough mass, which would give the exact amount of energy that they would need to repel these two apart at the speed that they were seeing in the experiment and leave them with the barium that they were expecting. So they, Meitner and Frisch, had gone through and interpreted Hahn's results in the correct way. Rather than thinking, oh, he must be wrong, they had come up with the mechanism and proven it mathematically. Meitner and Frisch come up with some more experiments to give a bit more meat to their claims, and they publish a paper. Hahn publishes his own paper, one part of it on 6th of January, part on the 10th of February 1939. Frisch and Meitner published their paper a day later on the 11th of February. And
Okay.
the scientific community goes crazy because
Ah.
this is the first example, the discovery of what Meitner has termed, what Lisa has termed, nuclear fission. And
Oof.
nuclear fission, this splitting apart of atoms, the cascade effect of which you see in a nuclear bomb, which
Yes.
releases colossal amounts of energy very, very quickly. The controlled splitting of which is what powers nuclear reactors. That's why you have fuel rods and you have control rods that absorb some of the things that are split off so that they don't then
Yeah.
create a cascade reaction.
This is world changing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's this that then fires off the further investigation into, oh, that's a lot of energy that's been released. We've just converted mass to energy. Maybe we can make a bomb out of it.
Well,
It's
because
that that
that's your
leads
first
to,
thought,
it's the first
obviously.
thought,
It's the
obviously.
first thing is like, how can I use this to destroy things?
Yeah. And now
Uh,
that nuclear fission is a concept, I recommend you watch Oppenheimer, the movie, and that will tell you in much better detail. The rest of the story gives us nuclear reactors, but Lisa doesn't want anything to do. She's absolutely horrified by the idea that they would make a bomb out of this. She's offered a place to work with the British team on the Manhattan Project, and she just tells them to do one. Then, 1945, the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences announced that Otto Hahn had been awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for his discovery of the fission of heavy atomic nuclei.
seriously.
Yeah,
Otto, he's fallen off again. Otto's going through quite the character arc.
he, he did a thing
He did a
and was
thing.
baffled by it. She figured out exactly what had happened and
Yeah.
told him where to look for more information and design the experiments that he then wrote up in a paper and got the Nobel Prize for.
Wow. Did he allude to like anybody
I
else,
don't
or did
think he mentioned her in his speech.
he
No.
basked in his own glory? Hmm.
Yeah.
Quite the villain in the end, Otto.
I first came across Lisa because I was looking for female scientists who should have got a Nobel Prize. Oh my God, I could just do a whole series on these. It's devastating how often this has happened. So look out for season
Really?
two. Yeah. In her career, Lisa was nominated 49 times for Nobel
Wow.
Prizes in physics and chemistry, but she
Yeah,
never
we don't
won.
know her name. 49 times.
49.
Gosh. It's like a lifetime of nominees, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like the Beyonce of
She's
chemistry.
the
Yeah.
Beyonce. Yeah. But there was controversy at the time that she wasn't mentioned. Her fellow physicists weren't happy. Yeah,
But
it's
it's
sort of
just
wide.
not being a dick, isn't it? It's like
Yeah.
this is what a lot of these stories boil down to. Don't be a dickhead.
Yeah.
Did she ever
Mm.
reference the fact that she didn't get any recognition? Did
Yeah.
Lisa?
So I think she was quite upset by, well, upset by it all, really. And like
Yeah.
throughout, she was generally upset. And it's like you were saying earlier that her passion for the work outweighed her, how much she begrudged the situation that she was in and the treatment that she got. And it was just another not entirely unexpected snub. And they named element 109 as Meitnerium in her honor.
Yay,
So
that's
one of the
cool.
elements that I guess Otto Hahn wishes he could have discovered was then named after her.
Yeah, he didn't tidy up that one, did he?
No.
Serves you right, Otto.
I think hers is the only, Meitnerium is the only element heavier than uranium named after a woman where the woman is not from fiction.
Wow, that's so depressing.
Because the other, like all the other ones are from mythology.
Oh, right.
Um,
Oh,
but it's,
Simon. Oh, that's a cool fact, though. It's very, you could whip that out
mm.
at a pub quiz, couldn't you, or something? Yeah.
I'm not really sure what the conclusion is here. The conclusion is just like really depressing. Um,
No, come on. She achieved so much
but she
and all those
was,
nominations. And I think my conclusion from it is that knowledge is power. Like, she positioned herself during the most turbulent time of the 20th century
mhm,
in a position where she was required and needed, and actually her her legacy after that just proves it. It just sucks
yeah,
that she didn't get an easier ride. Imagine how much more she could have achieved if she was given the same ride as Otto or anybody else in that situation.
yeah.
And you know,
Like if she
and
didn't have to have a second job. Well, she's got a crater on the moon named after her.
actually,
Yeah.
oh,
Um,
wonder how she felt. Oh, okay.
thanks very much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
There's a crater on Venus named after her, an asteroid.
Why are these
There's
craters?
an institute in Berlin,
That's
Element
better.
109 that we've covered.
Yeah,
There's a biennial Lise Meitner Prize for excellent research in nuclear science.
love that.
There's a Gothenburg Lise Meitner Award. It's awarded annually to a scientist who's made a breakthrough in physics.
Hmm.
Building at the Free University of Berlin that was
Yeah, where
once
she
the
did all
Kaiser
that
Wilhelm
work.
Institute,
Yeah.
um, and had been known as the Otto Hahn Building since 1956.
That is a slap in the face.
It's a real slap, isn't it? Was renamed to the Hahn Meitner Building.
Oh, okay, okay. So he
Um,
stayed. He stayed. I thought he
he
was
stayed,
replaced initially.
but he hasn't got a statue. She's got a statue
Ah.
in the garden of Humboldt University in Berlin, next to similar statues of Hermann von Helmholtz and Max Planck.
Yay!
Planks
So
back for
their
the end.
friendship endured. Yeah,
Yeah.
love that.
Oh,
Oh, well,
um,
what a story. Thank
yeah,
you.
there's Lise Meitner. All 3.5 hours of her.
I know. Well, thanks everyone.
You,
Thanks for listening.
oh, yeah, thanks, folks.
Thanks.
I'm Simon.
I'm Vicky, and this has been She Changed History. If you enjoyed it, please let us know and let other people know through rating and subscribing and sharing. If you want us to cover a particular person, let us know at shechangedhistory@gmail.com. Or if you just want to shout about how amazing the women in your lives are, like, don't feel like they have to be famous women or anything. Just shout. We'd love to hear your stories, definitely. And I'm pretty sure we'll have an episode next week as well. So we'll see you. Thanks, everyone.
See you soon. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.